As-salatu was-salamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd, fa'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, rabbi shrah li sadri, wa yassir li amri, wahlul uqdatam min lisani, yafqahu qawli, rabbi zidni ilma, rabbi zidni ilma, rabbi zidni ilma. I would like to greet everyone with the Islamic greeting. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May peace and blessing of Allah be upon all of you. My name is Asma. I will be hosting the session, inshallah. So please do support me. I would like to welcome everyone on behalf of MCA Walton Circle of Newham. Today our theme is on hijab. Now, what is this hijab? And why do women wear the hijab? Is it a fashion? Or is it something I wear because I've been told to? Or is it simply something that I need to cover my hair with? Or is it I'm just too lazy to brush my hair? Now, the point I'm trying to make, my dear sisters, is we need to understand the concept of hijab. Hijab is not a piece of cloth. It's a way of life. You see, most believe that by just covering the head, they have fulfilled the requirement of hijab. What we don't realize is that wearing the hijab requires much more than just covering. That's why we have arranged a qualified speaker who will be teaching us the importance of hijab and the true fact of covering the head, inshallah. Before we start, I would like to say our routine for today's event. We have Quran recitation, translation, then we have our main speaker on hijab. We then have a poem and a nasheed, and last of all, we will be having a question and answer session, inshallah. Now, without any further delay, I would like to call Sister Sadika to start her recitation on Surah An-Nur.
Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله نور السماوات والأرض. مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح. المصباح في زجاجة. الزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري يوقد من شجرة مباركة زيتونة لا شرقية ولا غربية يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو لم تمسسه نار نور على نور يهدي الله لنوره من يشاء ويضرب الله الأمثال للناس والله بكل شيء عليم. في بيوت أذن الله أن ترفع ويذكر فيها اسمه يسبح له فيها بالغدو والآصال رجال لا تلهيهم تجارة ولا بيع عن ذكر الله وإقام الصلاة وإيتاء الزكاة يخافون يوما تتقلب فيه القلوب والأبصار ليجزيهم الله أحسن ما عملوا ويزيدهم من فضله والله يرزق من يشاء بغير حساب. والذين كفروا صدق الله العظيم.
Jazakumullah khairan, sister, for that beautiful recitation. I will be now calling Sister Halima to do the translation, please.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Wa alaikum assalam.
So I'll be doing the translation for Surah An-Nur. And we have certainly sent down to you distant verses, an example for those who passed from before you, and an admonition for those who fear Allah. Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. The example of His light is like a niche within which is a lamp. The lamp is within glass. The glass, as it were a pearly white star lit from the oil of a blessed olive tree, neither of the east nor of the west, whose oil would almost glow even if untouched by fire. Light upon light. Allah guides to His light whom He wills. And Allah presents example for the people, and Allah is the knowing of all things. Such niches are in mosques which Allah has ordered to be raised, and that His name be mentioned therein, exalting Him within them in the morning and the evening. Are men who neither commence nor sell distract from the remembrance of Allah and performance of prayer and giving of zakah. They fear a day in which their hearts and eyes will fearfully turn about, that Allah may reward them according to the best of what they did and increase them from His bounty. And Allah gives provision to whom He wills without account. So I think that's the translation of Surah An-Nur.
Jazakumullah khairan for the translation. That was Surah An-Nur, verse 34 to 38. Now I would like to call upon Sister Musanna, who will be introducing our speaker.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Wa alaikum assalam.
So I would like to welcome our guest, Sidra Naeem. She has a role as a Deputy Lieutenant Queen's Representative. Also, many of her other responsibilities and roles include she's an alima, a public inspirational speaker, a qualified teacher, and a Muslim chaplain. She also delivers many lectures including Islamic interfaith and health topics. Without further ado, I'll pass it on to our honorable guest speaker, Lady Sidra Naeem.
Assalamu alaikum, Jazakallah khair for having me. I really appreciate that you invited me for this lecture. I'm now going to share a PowerPoint with you all, and we will definitely have, inshallah, questions and answers at the end. Hijab is a whole concept. It is not just a head covering, which lots and lots of sisters think it's just a head covering. It's everything. It's all codes of conduct, from how we dress to the way we walk, to the way we talk. It's everything. The whole attire also, including clothing, what we wear, is all hijab. So the word hijab, the literal meaning of hijab is to veil, to cover, or to screen. And like I said, it is a whole load of things, not just clothes. It's actually socializing as well. And right before the beginning of time, hijab is not a new concept. Did you know that Adam and Eve, when they were made, it said, "Fear your Lord who has created you from a single soul. From him he created his wife, and from them he created many men and women. Fear Allah through whom you demand your mutual rights." So what we're talking about here is that people are created to procreate. So Adam and Eve was actually created so that they could get married and they could have children. And this, believe it or not, is all linked with hijab. So you need, within marriage, for a man and a woman to get married and then have children. That is the natural product of a man and a woman. And because humans are created to procreate, there is a natural attraction process which allows them to fall in love due to Allah. And all close, intimate relationships then are within marriage, okay? And it's very, very natural to fall in love so that the end product can happen, to get married and then have children. And when you're in love, your dopamine, your serotonin, your norepinephrine levels in your brain are very, very high. You can feel on top of the world. And the best thing there is then to get married so that fornication or adultery doesn't happen. And adultery and fornication is actually any relationship that can happen outside of marriage. So haram relationships are not allowed, and all codes for close intimate relationships are only reinforced within marriage. And Islam and all other religions, that actually prohibit fornication, which is sexual relationships outside of marriage. And all of that actually leads to the word zina, which is a very, very big sin, and it does eventually lead to hellfire. And those sins are such that in Islam, you are flogged 100 stripes if you end up doing that sin. So let not pity withhold you in their case. In a punishment prescribed by Allah, you believe in Allah the last day, better part of believers with this punishment. Did you know it is also the same within Christianity as well? A very, very big punishment for fornicating. And did you know that for adultery, which is having sexual relationships outside of marriage, there is an even bigger punishment where you stone them to death. This is actually in Sahih Muslim, in 17 Hadith 4192. So it is very, very important that all haram relationships are stopped because of this very, very big sin. And huge problems can arise if we are not dressing properly, or we are not doing hijab in our mannerisms and things to stop all of these haram kinds of relationships, which are happening hugely out there nowadays. The only way to have a very good relationship, which is halal, is marriage. Now, fornicating and adultery are huge sins, but did you know that there are little sins which include stimulating desires, which can lead to that very big sin of adultery? And it's all these things then come into hijab. So let's just have a look. The very first one is your appearance, which can also lead to harassment. That is all under hijab, believe it or not. And you can stimulate a man's desires by not looking in the right way. Then the next stage is chatting. Once you like somebody, you will want to chat to them. And chatting, you can do lots of haram if your behavior within hijab boundaries are not there, when you are chatting to the opposite gender. Then the next one is, after you've chatted to them, you want to meet them. You have this desire to meet them. So even in that, in Islam, there are certain etiquettes that we have to follow, even when we are meeting with the opposite gender as well. Once you've met them, you want to touch them. In Islam, hijab is all about not touching as well. Men are not allowed to touch women. Women are not allowed to touch men. And also, all of those 4 things, which are all to do with hijab, can then lead to fornication or adultery, which are the 2 massive sins in Islam and in all the other religions as well. So we need to go back in time now to have a look at hijab. Was it there in the other religions? So let us have a look. We are going to start off from Adam. Now, Adam and Eve, did you know the very first, one of the first things which Allah told them to do was to cover themselves. So we've got, then they both ate of that tree, and so their private parts appeared to them, and they began to stick on themselves the leaves from paradise for their covering. And Allah has said in the Quran, O children of Adam, let not Satan tempt you, as you removed your parents from paradise, stripping them of their clothing to show them their private parts. And then if we look at, again, O children of Adam, indeed we have sent down to you a garment which covers your shame and provides protection and adornment. That's in the Quran. It's Allah who created us, so He knows our nature and what is best for us. Did you know that one of the first things which Adam did when he got to earth was to make a hijab out of wool for Hawa? And he gave it to her and she wore it straight away. So hijab was there right from the beginning of time, not just in Islam. And then let us look after that at Judaism. Did you know hijab is also there in Judaism as well? Look at these people here. If you look at the first picture, the woman is completely covered. If you look at the second picture as well, again, both the couple fully covered and their children are modestly dressed. And this is an Orthodox Jew nowadays, where she's also required to cover her head, and her dress is very modest. She is fully covered, her hair is fully covered, and can only be revealed to her husband. And these are the Torah verses. Hair is her crowning glory and pride. Cover it, it says. And then, if a woman does not cover her head, she might as well have her hair shaved, and this is more shameful, so then she should cover her head. That's in Corinthians 6. And then we will now move to Christianity. Now, even in Christianity, the Bible, like the Torah, also tells women to cover their heads, and the Quran carries on the same message. So if we look here at some Greek Orthodox women, they are also covering their hair. And I've actually been to a church in Greece where everybody was actually dressed more modestly than I was, in complete black. And we look at this nun. This is the way nuns used to dress in the olden days. And this is actually Teresa, the Saint Teresa. She's actually a saint now, Mother Teresa. She's fully covered. And this is actually our biggest role model, which is Isa alayhi salam's mother. She is fully covered. You never ever see her without a covering on her head, because she was a very pious woman. So dressing modesty and head covering is encouraged and is a requirement from all the Abrahamic faiths. And here is another Bible verse, which you can read: for every woman that prayeth, or prophetess with her head uncovered, she dishonoreth her head. So it's there again in the Bible as well. Here are some more pictures of nuns. Here are some Christian Orthodox girls. Now they just look like girls in a madrasa, the way they are dressed. They're even wearing a skull cap under their hijab as well. So contrary to popular misconception, hijab did not emerge with Islam, but it's the continuation of a custom long observed by Jews, Christians, and perhaps others before them as well. So here are some more pictures. That man is actually taking the mick out of those two, thinking they're Muslims, and they turn around and it's actually a Christian priest and a Christian nun. So a nun can cover from head to toe in order to devote herself to God. But then if a Muslim girl does the same, why is she oppressed? And here are some head coverings from all the different religions, going right down to Hinduism and Sikhism as well. And as you can see, in every religion, there is hijab. And then we look at the next religion, which is Islam. Allah updated the laws to complete our religion and sent down the Quran, which is the final testament, not the Old Testament, not the New Testament, but the final testament, the final piece, if you like, to the jigsaw puzzle. And in the days just before Islam came, there was so much bad going on, all related to hijab. There was nudity going on, which is equivalent to pornography nowadays. There was sexual slavery going on, which is actually equivalent to modern day slavery nowadays. There was, astaghfirullah, prostitution going on, where women were not being treated at all with any dignity. They were just used and abused, basically, for sexual relationships. There was persecution of women going on. Widows died due to poverty, as no one married them. Fornication was rife. Women were used and abused and then just thrown away without marrying them. Polygamy was rife. Hundreds and hundreds of wives were used just for their sexual desires. Slaves were actually mistresses as well within the house. They were just being used as mistresses. Prisoners of war, they also became prostitutes as well. And there was celibacy going on, where women were not even given that much importance that people could even marry them. And here is what happened after Islam came. Isn't it so amazing, alhamdulillah, that modesty then was reintroduced, resulting in preserving the honor of a woman and morals in society. Marriage was strongly recommended. Marry the person, don't use that girl. Respect, honor, and dignity was given to women. And the only legitimate halal way to indulge in intimacy between a man and woman is through marriage. Islam greatly encourages to uphold family units, which are very, very important in Islam. And the Prophet said there's no celibacy in Islam. Marriage is actually half of faith. And did you know that hijab was given to women as a benefactor to grant them privacy and chastity? It was Islam that removed the bondage in which women are held from the dawn of history and gave them rights such as were not granted to them in England until many, many centuries later. So the laws of covering carried on from before. There's a Christian Catholic nun fully covered, there's an Orthodox Jew completely covered, and in Islam we continue the etiquettes of hijab, not just in our head covering, but in the way we dress, in the way we behave, in the way we touch, chat, everything. The full package was given to Islam, whereas the previous religions may have just had the head covering before. So we are very, very lucky in Islam. All three faiths share a strikingly similar dress code. However, only one is seen as medieval, backwards, and oppressive. And that's the one that's attacked the most, which is the Islamic faith. By addressing modesty, women are following the word of God, who is being consistent throughout time. Again, I've got another one here. We've got the Christian veil, we've got the Jewish veil, which is modesty, and the Christian veil is respect. The Islamic veil, that is the one that is causing the terrorism. Yet, isn't it so interesting where nowadays everybody is wearing a face mask? What is that? That's just a niqab, is it not? Even the men, they're wearing one as well. And all the women are wearing niqabs now. Who's going to attack us now? Boris himself has said, everybody start wearing face masks. So by following haya and modesty, we are upkeeping the true word of Allah. It's not fitting for a believer, man or woman, when a matter has been decided by Allah and His Apostle, to have any option about their decision. If anyone disobeys Allah and His Apostle, he is indeed on a clearly wrong path. That's Surah Hijab in the Quran. And dressing modestly, in the Quran, it's mentioned that it stops molesting as well. So molesting is actually not just touch, but it's actually harassment as well. So here is Miss Piggy. She is not wearing a hijab, and Kermit is all after her, harassing her. So did you know that when we dress modestly, it stops harassment and molesting, which is actually the first stage in the science of attraction, which I mentioned earlier in my minor sins. So let us now look at the science of attraction, why we should cover ourselves, what is going on in a man's mind. This is why this lecture is only open to sisters, so we can talk as much as we like about the characteristics that men have. So men, did you know, first of all, are programmed to reproduce. They are on the lookout at any age to grab hold of a girl that they can then have a physical relationship with and have children. Men's sexual drives are 10 times more than women. They have more testosterone naturally from Allah, so they think of the act, the forbidden act, more. Okay? And like I said, they're always on the lookout, looking for a mate to create children with, no matter how old they are. They are also attracted visually as well. There's a big clue to all of you girls. They are attracted visually. And they think of the big act of physical relationships more, much more than women. And any bad thoughts they have when they look at a girl that's uncovered, that is registered, guess in whose account? Your account, because you are giving them something to look at. And in the animal kingdom, we are actually the more attractive out of the two genders. We have more fat on our bodies, which means we are more curvy, which attracts men. We are fairer than men as well. We have softer skin. We have less melanin in us, no matter which culture we look at. A woman is always more fairer than the man. A woman naturally likes to dress up. If you look at women, they dress in brighter colors. They like to wear adornments. This is all a natural way from Allah to attract the male. Okay, we dress in brighter colors. And we are a little bit like a flower, like in the picture. And the bees are the men. The bees, they get attracted to the flowers. They extract the nectar and they fertilize the flower. That's how I want you girls to try and think of us. We are like a beautiful flower with perfume, brightly colored adornments to attract the bee that comes then to fertilize us, which are the men. And if you look at flowers, they close at night. Why? Because they do not need to attract bees at night. So they actually close themselves. And did you know their perfume also stops as well at night? So the bees can't come then to fertilize them. It's only done during the day. In the animal kingdom, it's the other way around. Did you know that animals, it's the male of the genders who displays his attraction so that a female can come running to him and they can mate and have children. So I have actually got a video here of a beautiful peacock, which you can look at. And the peacock is the one that is, the male peacock is the one that is attracting the female, to come to him. And that happens in so many different ways, in so many animals, which we will talk about as we go along. The first hukam in the Quran is for men to lower their gaze. Say to the believing men that they should lower their gaze, and Allah is well acquainted with all that they do. So if a woman passes in front of you, lower your eyes until she has passed by. The reason is that the gaze, the eye lock, is actually the first step to adultery. You might have heard of the phrase eyeing up, when you eye somebody up. So if you are giving a man something to gaze at, then it's going to be very difficult for a man to lower his gaze, isn't it? So we need to keep this in our mind. It's not just about a man lowering their gaze. It's a matter of what are we giving to him to look at as well. And a man is more likely to look at somebody who is not modestly dressed. So the eye is the mirror of the heart. If a person lowers the gaze, the heart will lower his desires and shame. But if a person looks, the desire in his heart will be provoked. Men also, did you know, have tunnel vision. They are made to have tunnel vision because in the olden days, they are the ones who used to hunt for animals. And they look at a woman up and down and can focus in much more quickly than what you think. If the eye lock happens, the eye contact, it's a very powerful stimulator of love and affection. When you look directly in the eyes, their bodies produces chemicals. And phenolphthaleamine functions as a neurotransmitter in the human central nervous system. And their body produces this chemical, which then makes you both fall in love with each other. And men are stimulated more visually. So we need to be really, really careful with what we are giving to men to look at. And say to the believing women that they should also lower their gaze and guard their modesty. That's in Surah Naeem. Did you know that your pupils get wider if you end up finding the other person attractive? And you want to see more. That's why your pupil gets wider. This is one of the reasons why restaurants are dimly lighted. So dating couples can fall in love. And the same goes for mobile phones. Now, I have put a lot of social media into this lecture. This also applies to social media. So if you see somebody, if you are sharing your pictures of not being modestly dressed on a mobile phone, you are still stimulating a man's desires. If you are still seeing pictures of men on the television, you are stimulating your own desires. If you are seeing pictures of naked men in newspapers or pornography on Google, all of these four, you are stimulating your own desires. And it's very, very important to be very, very careful with what pictures you are uploading on social media. And you need to switch channels over where there is anything that can provoke or stimulate your desires. Like I said, even though a man is responsible for his own gaze, you women are responsible for what you give to them to gaze at. And Muslim women need to dress in a way that is modest and dignified. Handsome is the brother who lowers his gaze, and most beautiful is the sister who keeps her modesty. So now let us look at the very first avenue that we need to close for stimulating a man's desires. You won't believe this, but the most attractive part of a woman is actually her hair. Her hair, like it says in the Bible, is her crowning glory. And the more your hair is out, the more a man is more likely to look at it. And did you know that even in the English saying, when they tell you to go out and party and let your hair down when partying is a big phrase amongst the English culture. They say, let your hair down, go out and party. You let your hair down and you attract all the blokes because hair is attractive. So why do Muslims have to wear hijab? Because their beauty is for their husband, not for the whole of mankind. And if we look at this very good picture, and we look at the lollipop on the left, which is covered in a hijab, the insect will not go anywhere near it. But if you look at the right, where there is no hijab to cover the head of the lollipop, all the bees, which I mentioned earlier, are being attracted to the sweetness, extracting the honey out of that lollipop or extracting nectar out of a flower. So a rose protects itself by thorns, and a Muslim woman protects her beauty by her hijab. Hijab does not degrade a woman, but uplifts a woman and protects her modesty and chastity. Earlier on, I showed you pictures of nuns wearing a hijab. When you wear a hijab, it makes you look like a nun, and straight away there is a big barrier there, which speaks out to men. The hijab makes the statement that a Muslim woman is not available and not interested in any advances. And straight away, a man lowers his gaze when he sees somebody in a hijab, and it provides a platform for them to know that they can't chat you up, can't harass you, can't molest you. And basically, this is a little fairy tale here. She's not going to get into any bad because her hair is covered. Dressing modesty allows interactions between men and women to be more safe. Modesty is the crown of a Muslimah. Hijab forces a man to look at a woman with respect rather than as an object. And a woman in hijab is actually then free from oppression. Allah loves us and keeps us safe. It covers her beauty so she may not be molested and preserves her dignity as an individual. Relationships can then be based on what's inside and nothing else. And did you know that marriages based on personality are proven to last? Because looks fade with time, but if you wear a hijab, somebody is choosing you for your inner self. If they choose you for your beauty, you're going to get old and fat and wrinkly. But we know personality never changes. A leopard never changes its spots. So look for somebody wearing a hijab because you know inside is then who you are going to marry, and that won't change. Hijab is not about oppression, but freedom from evil eyes. So let's take her out of that prison. In countries where the proper Islamic code of conduct is followed, did you know there's a minimum adultery, fornication, or rape? Other problems which lead from these sins, like high divorce rates, teenage pregnancies, abortions, sexually transmitted diseases, broken families, social and emotional problems in children due to broken family structure, are also very low. In Islam, women are considered oppressed when they are pressurized to be slim and beautiful, as the press portrays. Women's bodies are abused when exploited by men to satisfy their desires, and they are used as sex objects in advertising and pornography. Men want to see women half naked. By covering, Muslim women are doing what they want to do, not what men want. So Allah raises your dignity through the hijab. When a strange man looks at you, he respects you because he sees that you respect yourself. Hijab is your crown. It's not a piece of cloth on your head, it's a way of life. The purpose of clothing is not only to protect oneself from physical elements, but also to protect oneself from immorality and pride. And then you are judged by what is in your head and not what is on your head. By dressing modesty, she's actually liberated. This no longer This is because she's no longer valued for something materialistic, such as her good looks or the shape of her body. She compels others to judge her for her intelligence, kindness, honesty, and personality. Therefore, people judge her for who she actually is. Hijab is not a burden you carry, but it's a real act of worship for which you get continuous ajr from the time you go out to the time you go back home. So wearing hijab is actually ibadah. Now let us look at all the different kinds of hijabs and what people are doing and wearing according to nowadays, which may not be compatible with Islam. So we know that the Prophet wore a turban and a hat, but with women, hats really are not allowed. Does anybody know why that is? Does anybody want to answer this question? Why are Muslim women not really required to wear hats? Have a look at the picture.
Yes, sister. Assalamu alaikum. I think it's because it's attraction. It attracts people.
Okay, and what is showing in the picture? Because hijab is not just about covering your head. What else needs to be covered?
No, her neck's not covered.
Good, good. Well done. Yes, her neck's not covered. Her chest isn't covered. Okay,
Yes.
and her hair isn't covered fully, is it? Can you see her hair is uncovered? Well done, sister. So that kind of hijab is not allowed. What about one of these, a dupatta on your head? I've heard a woman saying the Peshawari way. I wear the dupatta the Peshawari way, which is showing all your hair. Okay, that's not allowed. If you're going to wear a hijab, you need to wear it properly and you need to cover all your hair. Because when you think about it, when you pray, you're not allowed to show your hair. If you went to Makkah, you'd get beats there, wouldn't you, while you're doing Hajj and Umrah? People would say, cover your hair, a little strand of your hair is showing. So we need to remember we are facing Allah when we wear our hijab. So here are some pictures of the proper way of wearing hijab, which is only one, which is the top right-hand picture. And all the others, they are not really hijab because hair is actually being shown. Shoulders are being shown, okay? So necks are being showed as well. And what it tells you in Islam is, like the sister said, her neck was showing. It says that they should draw their veils over their bosoms. That's in Surah Nur. Now, did you know that men, they like heavy-chested women because big breasts reminds them that these women can be good mothers to their children when it comes to breastfeeding. The bigger your breast, the bigger milk you're going to hold in there, and the more milk you're going to feed their babies. So men are sexually attracted to women with big chests. So in Islam, for the first time, not just for the first time, it was in the other religions as well, it's not a matter of just covering your head. Our hijab needs to cover our chests as well. Okay, so in the Quran, it talks about the head cover, khamur, should be drawn over the neck slits, jayub, and khamur is the plural of the Arabic word khimar, which means a head covering. A jubba or jayub is the plural of the Arabic word jayb, a derivative of job, or you might have heard of thawb, refers to the neck slits, and it's the dress. This means that the head cover should be drawn not just to cover just the hair, but should be drawn over the neck, and it should cover the whole of the chest area. Short hijabs are okay as long as your chest is covered with a blazer or a separate kind of scarf that covers loosely that area as well. Now, some people, and I've seen this, this is actually in fashion, people are wearing layers and layers of hijabs and they are making their heads look really big. Why should we not do this? If you look at the bottom two pictures, they're fully covered. Their hair's covered and their chests are covered. But why should we not wear layers and layers? Okay, you are drawing attention to yourself. The bigger the head, the more attention you're drawing to yourself. And this is actually really rife out there. The camel hump hijab is really out there, where people are putting hair extensions. We will talk about hair extensions as well, under their hijabs to make their heads look bigger. The Prophet said there are two types of the people of hell whom I have not seen. Then in whose hands are whips like the tails of cattle, with which they beat the people, and women who are clothed yet naked, with their heads like the humps of camels, tilted to one side. They will not enter paradise or even smell its fragrance. That's in Sahih Muslim, and that's a very strong hadith. I've had many sisters arguing with me about this, but this is a very strong hadith, and we must be careful. Just your natural hair should be underneath. And did you know, in the times of Jahiliyyah, this is actually from a museum that I went to in Greece. This is the way the ladies in the times of Jahiliyyah were actually wearing their hair high up on their heads, piling up their buns as well. So it reminds me actually of the time of the Jahiliyyah. Not only does it remind me of the times of the Jahiliyyah, where people, the ladies wore very big hair on their heads, but also into the future. Remember, when we go into the future, it's going to be the worst kinds of Muslims that will be around. And the Qiyamah will come on the worst of Muslims, and those women will again then be piling hair on their heads like camel humps. Now, a hijab needs to be as simple as possible. What's the point of a hijab if you're going to lace it with all kinds of attraction? Now, this is actually a very pretty girl, and the purpose of hijab is to divert attention from beauty, not to bring attention to it. So try to avoid excessively decorating it. So she has gone well over the top, put loads of chains all over her hijab. It's a bright color. If your way of wearing the hijab attracts others, know that your hijab needs correction. Keep your hijab as simple as possible. And later on, we will also talk about we're not allowed to display our beauty and ornaments except what must ordinarily appear thereof. Now, there's two meanings of those adornments. One is your chest, which is an adornment for men, which you cover with the hijab. The other kind of adornment is jewelry that you are putting over your hijab. And I've seen so many sisters wearing great big headbands and great big things like what you wear in your wedding over their hijabs. Then what's the point of you hiding your adornments if you're putting it on top of your hijab? That's making a haram out of halal, isn't it? And beware of very large brooches as well. If your hijab has become a fashion statement and accessory, then it's no longer hijab. Hijab equals modesty, not attention seeking. So a little pin like this sister is wearing in this picture is fine, but I have seen ladies wearing those big giant brooches, very, very big ones. Those really should not be allowed. You are allowed to match your jewelry, that is allowed, and smart, dressing smart is absolutely fine as well. There's a difference though. Don't forget that people who wear a hijab do not need to adorn it. The sun doesn't lose its beauty when covered by the clouds. The same way your beauty doesn't fade when being covered by hijab. The beauty of the moon does not change when covered by clouds, just as the beauty of a woman remains when covered by hijab and hijab. And believe me, sisters, there is nothing that you cannot do while you are wearing a hijab. I have actually been scuba diving. That's a picture of me scuba diving with my burkini on, and I'm wearing a hijab, okay? And you can do everything. The sister earlier on mentioned I was a lady and I was actually represent the Queen in Essex. I have never taken my hijab off whenever I have gone on Queen duties, because you know what? I'm representing my religion. And the amount of dawah I have done, I cannot tell you how much dawah I have done by wearing my hijab. Because people know this is a good lady. She must have done so much to have become a Queen's representative. I wonder what she's done. If I wasn't wearing a hijab, they'd probably think I was a Hindu or a Sikh or someone else, another religion. But by putting my hijab on, I'm portraying my religion, showing, look, I'm Muslim and I've done really, really good works out there. Some people become famous and off comes their hijabs. I've seen many, many people who enter parliament or have won competitions on the telly, and all of a sudden their hair starts showing. I have stuck to my hijab because I know that wearing a hijab portrays my religion and me as a good role model as well. It's the best kind of dawah that you can do. And do not forget, the Queen herself wore hijab. So look at the Queen. What's she doing there on her, I think it was on her birthday, she wore a hijab. Basically, you are a queen, did you know, when you wear a hijab. Freedom is not doing whatever you want to do. Freedom is doing the right thing according to Quran and Sunnah without fearing other people. The hijab does not cover up a girl's weaknesses. It in fact displays her strength, commitment, and her confidence, which is built out of love for Allah and not for the love of this dunya. So what the hijab is: an act of obedience to the Creator, an act of honor and dignity, an act of belief and faith, an act of modesty, purity, bashfulness, righteousness, and a shield. The hijab is not something new. Muslim women follow the same example of righteous women in the past, such as Mary, the mother of Jesus. It's not a symbol of oppression. It's not required in non-public places where there are only Muslim females and close male relatives. It is not a means to restrict a woman's freedom. Like I showed you the pictures, you can do anything in a hijab. It's not there to restrict expressing your views or your opinion, or to have an education or a career. You can do everything. It is not there as an act of defiance, confrontation, or protest to non-Muslims. It is not a portable prison either. It actually frees you. And here are some more advantages of a hijab for the youngsters. You please Allah and you get reward. It is Allah's protection of your natural beauty. You are too precious to be displayed everywhere. It is Allah's preservation of chastity. Allah praises your dignity through the hijab. When strangers look at you, they respect you. Allah protects your honor 100% through your hijab as well. Allah gives you nobility through the hijab. You are noble by wearing it. And in a way, Allah demonstrates your equity as well as a Muslim. And there are so many benefits. They say that Islam is in the heart, not hijab or beard. They don't understand that when Islam is in the heart, hijab and beard come naturally. So this is actually for those sisters who say, you know what, we don't need to wear a hijab because it's in our heart. But whatever's in your heart, this slide is trying to tell you to say, is then it comes out as well. Now, these are all the people that we do not need to wear a hijab in front of. It tells you in the Quran, and do not display your beauty except your husbands, their fathers, their husbands' fathers, their sons, their husbands' sons, their brothers or their brothers' sons, or their sisters' sons, or their women, or the slaves whom their right hand possesses, or male servants free of physical needs, or small children who have no sense of the shame of sex. That's actually in the Quran. And these are all your mahrams listed here, which you do not need to cover in front of. For girls, they are all on the left. There's a big list there. Cousins, by the way, you are allowed to marry them, so they are not your mahram. Some sisters remove their hijab when they are in front of their cousins, and that is not allowed because they are non-mahrams to you until you marry them, and you are allowed to marry them. So anybody who you can marry, you must cover in front of. Anybody who you cannot marry, like your brothers and things, you don't have to wear a hijab. And hijab has been part of Western culture for centuries. Here is a BBC program.
It brings the right kind of attention. So basically, straight away, there's a barrier between men and women, and men know straight away she's not the kind of girl I can flirt about with. I can't chat her up. It's a little bit like nuns. When someone enters a church and a Catholic nun is fully covered, you wouldn't dream of going and chatting her up because straight away the dress code puts a barrier between the two genders. So it's the right kind of attention. And what's really interesting is before I covered, I remember a meat shop that I used to go to, and the man used to always try and chat me up and try and touch me, actually, try to touch my hand. And then when I started to cover, I went to the same meat shop and he didn't recognise me. And all of a sudden it was sister this and sister that. The amount of respect I got. And inside I laughed because I knew it was the same man, but he didn't recognise me. I thought, what a difference. What a difference. Me dressed differently, hair out and everything, and the way he used to talk to me. And now all of a sudden he calls me sister.
So does that actually make you feel better as a person?
Yes,
as
definitely.
A woman, by being covered up, with your beauty being covered?
Yes, and more respected, definitely more respected. The majority of the time when we're at home, we're not wearing all of this. So yes, we look after ourselves really well. We wear makeup at home and hair styling and all the rest, everything. Sometimes we have all female parties where we can dress how we please, and there's actually competition between all the women with hairstyles and clothes and jewellery. All of that happens, but beauty is not there to show off to everybody. If you think of like diamonds, you don't just display them out for any old thief to come and take. You wrap them up in a soft cloth and they go inside a little jewellery box. And that's the case with all precious things. If you look at oysters, you open the oyster and the pearl is inside.
So that was actually a BBC program that I went on wearing a hijab to talk about hijab. So isn't that amazing? Like I said, you can do anything. We are also not allowed to cut our hair short. I've had many debates with women who cut their hair short and make them look like men, okay? So we are not allowed to cut our hair short. There's our hadiths, and I'm going to come to that in a minute, where we are not allowed to dress like the opposite gender. We are also not allowed to cut our hair to make ourselves look like men. Women's hair is genetically, naturally long and beautiful. Our hair is our crowning glory. We have been asked to cover it, but not cut it short. And think of how much money we save at the hairdressers. Look at that. So there is a woman before the hairdressers, there's a woman after hairdressers. They're both the same. So what's the problem with having your hair long? Wigs is a very important one. In the previous nations, did you know the Jewish women, they actually, what they did was, they didn't want to wear a hijab. So it said, cover your hair is your crown and glory. And if you can't cover it, then shave it. So wigs we're not allowed to wear because that's what the previous nations did, okay? We are also not to lengthen our hair. We're not allowed to lengthen our hair. Hair extensions are not allowed in Islam, and that includes wearing fake eyelashes. False eyelashes are not permissible because they resemble extensions, hair extensions, and the Prophet has cursed the women who artificially lengthen hair and the women who seek to have her hair artificially lengthened. We are allowed to dye our hair with henna, but the hair dye needs to be a hair dye of a different color to our natural hair color, because we need to be as natural as possible and not fool others. Niqab as well is there, and it is your choice. And as we can see nowadays, everybody is now wearing a niqab, and you can wear it even as a face wash. So it has so many benefits there. It's not fard to wear a niqab though, it is your choice, but obviously it's an added way of protecting yourself. So my hair is covered, my face is too, my beauty is hidden from strangers like you. No man deserves me except for my husband. My modesty is priceless and my self-worth is gold. Funny how society says don't judge a book by its cover, but then turns around and judges a woman by her cover. This is really changing at the moment. This is actually a poem for the Muslim women unveiled. You look at me and call me oppressed simply because of the way I'm dressed. You know me not for what's inside. You judge the clothing I wear with pride. My body is not for your eyes to hold. You must speak to my mind, not my feminine mold. I'm an individual. I'm no man's slave. It's Allah's pleasure that I only crave. I have a voice, so I will be heard. For in my heart, I carry his word. Okay, so there is a really, really good poem there. The rest of it you can read. And looking at a woman's attire, again, some of you may say, no, we're oppressed because we're Muslim. This is actually in 1916 in Vienna, in Austria. There is a king who presents his wife out in public. She's the queen. She's entirely covered. Okay, and he doesn't want her to be seen by everybody. So she's basically wearing a burqa from head to toe. In Islam, women are actually considered a queen. So times have not changed. Some people say times have changed and that was the dress of that age. But if you think about it, we make the world modern. We change the world. But God's word and rules stay throughout time. Here's one of the Queen's family. So here is the Queen's grandmother, who is fully dressed head to toe, the Queen mother, who is modestly dressed, and then the Queen as well. They've all got veils on, actually. They're in public. Now, again, with the hijab, when you wear a niqab, then you must not overly put adornments on it. So I have seen niqabs, diamante niqabs out there, that actually draws attention to yourself. It's exactly the same way as a hijab, exactly the same rules. Now, it's not just a head covering. Let's now look at the body covering. So let's now move on to the body. O Prophet, it says in the Quran, tell your wives and your daughters and the women of the believers to draw their cloaks, veils over their bodies when outdoors. That is most convenient, that they could be known as such, decent and chaste women and not molested. So to stop harassment, Allah additionally said in the Quran to cover the whole of your body. The hukam for head covering was already there for previous nations. And you know, all the bits which men look at, like I said, heavy breasts, they love those because it draws them towards women who can feed their babies lots of milk. And big hipped women will be attracted to men because they can deliver lots of big babies. This is all to do with the forms of attraction. So we need to be careful. And did you know that the whole aura of a body of a woman is the whole of her, the whole of her body is aura. We are very attractive as women. We're lucky, okay? We are very, very lucky. Allah's made us very curvy. We have more fat on our bodies. That's why men want to grab hold of us and do all sorts. So we have to be careful. So, So, O Prophet, tell your wives and your daughters and the women of the believers to cast down over themselves their outer garments. That is also in the Quran. And these are actually the way women dress. This is from a museum in Saudi Arabia, where this is how the women dressed in those days when the hukam came through the Quran to cover your bodies. And covering our private parts are very important. That was actually revealed to Adam and Eve right at the very beginning. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, if the woman reaches the age of puberty, no part of her body should be seen but this, and he pointed to his face and hands. So each part of our body needs to be very, very fully covered, and we need to wear loose clothes, okay? It tells your Prophet, tell your wives and daughters to cover themselves. So loose clothes to hide all our attraction parts. And we are to dress like the woman on the right. Everything precious is covered. A woman modestly dressed is like a pearl in its shell. Be like a diamond, precious and rare, not like a stone found everywhere. Everybody is on a journey, but we need to try and eventually get to the top step there, or at least aim for one of the middle steps. And here is a Victorian lady dressed, and here is a very quick video of how women used to dress in the olden days.
What's fascinating is the girls' hair is all covered, so women do not show long hair. So you see the girls, the shawls are completely covering them, and you don't see their hair at all, you just see their faces. There's all this debate now about the hijab and about women covering their hair, and we forget that. We've lost that as part of our culture. Like 100 years ago, you wouldn't walk out in the streets of Lancashire with your hair down.
Okay, by dressing naked, we're going back to Stone Age times. Our curves need to be completely hidden. If you look at this woman, her boobs are showing and her hips, which are both of the things I mentioned that attract men. Also tight jeans, all our bums, our hips, our thighs are all very, very attractive. Jeans really we should not wear, okay? So hijab is the half on the left, not the half on the right. Also nothing see-through, because that again shows our body. Nothing that has slits which will show a leg or so. And that is also to do with social media. We are not to reveal any parts of our body, even to the opposite gender, through pictures or anything, because that is actually like pornography. It's exposing your private parts in public. Even if we wear hijab, it must not be overly displayed in with adornments and things, because what are you doing? You're copying the peacock I mentioned earlier to attract the other gender, and you're copying a flower which is beautifully attractive with loads of colors and things. The Sunnah way is to wear black. We must also not dress like people of a different religion. So if you look at here, this lady is wearing a bindi, which is actually from Hinduism. We are not allowed to wear clothes that resemble the opposite gender, okay? And no designer wear clothes, that's not showing you are humble. Heels are two big problems here. One is you are making yourself taller, and you're not supposed to look taller than what Allah has made you. You are, you know, spoofing everybody else. The other one is the way it makes you walk. It makes your hips move from side to side, which is actually a mating mechanism. Did you know? Men look at wobbling hips, and it attracts people to look at your hips for babies. And it makes a noise, just like ankle bracelets make a noise as well. And that all comes under adornments. Adornments also involves things like handbags, over-the-top handbags, which will make the opposite gender look.
يا أيها النبي قل لأزواجك وبناتك ونساء المؤمنين يدنين عليهن من جلابيبهن ذلك أدنى أن يعرفن فلا يؤذين وقل للمؤمنات يغضضن من أبصارهن ويحفظن فروجهن ولا يبدين زينتهن إلا ما ظهر منها وليضربن بخمرهن على جيوبهن ولا يبدين زينتهن إلا لبعولتهن أو آباء بعولتهن أو أبنائهن أو أبناء بعولتهن أو إخوانهن أو بني إخوانهن أو بني أخواتهن أو نسائهن أو ما ملكت أيمانهن أو التابعين غير أولي الإربة من الرجال أو الطفل الذين لم يظهروا على عورات النساء ولا يضربن بأرجلهن ليعلم ما يخفين من زينتهن وتوبوا إلى الله جميعا أيها المؤمنون لعلكم تفلحون.
Allah mentions with Lam al-Ta'lil, it's called Lam al-Ta'lil. Lam al-Ta'lil means the reason why He wanted us to eat from the tree. The Lam will explain why. He says, لِيُبْدِيَ لَهُمَا مَا وُرِيَ عَنْهُمَا مِنْ سَوْآتِهِمَا. He wanted them to go to the tree and eat from the tree so that He could expose to each of them what was covered of their ugliness. He wanted them to lose their clothes. He wanted them to be provocative in front of each other. This is what He wanted. This was His way of humiliating, because Adam alayhi salam was honored, and what better way to humiliate someone than to remove their clothes? You know? And He wanted that for both our mother and our father. What is happening in the world of design? What is happening in the world of entertainment? How are you justifying yourself watching television shows that have, the following has sexual content? You're like, oh, it's just some sexual content. It's just some. I can forward it. You know? I could skip that part. I just see the first second of it. Then I'll say astaghfirullah. Then I'll watch it again when nobody else is there. It's disgusting. But this is what shaitan has done. And he knew that human beings will lose their dignity if they lose their clothes. And now we are living in times where losing the clothing is celebrated. The girls, you know, why are they, there are girls that are dressed and they want to tell themselves they're dressed Islamically. They're covered head to toe. But covering isn't just the Islamic code of dress. It's about protecting, covering what Allah beautified within you. So if you're covered head to toe, but you're wearing skin-tight clothes, you know, or you're drawing attention to certain parts of your body with the kinds of clothes you're wearing, you know, you don't kid yourself, you know. And I'm talking to you like your older brother. I'm not gonna, you know, beat around the bush. It is like it is. My daughters have to hear this from me too. So I'm not going to come and talk to you like just a formal lecture, somebody might get offended. Look, I'll tell you like it is. You're 14, 15 years old, you're 16 years old, 17 years old. There's no reason you should be dressing like that. There's no reason. And don't kid yourself that you're wearing a hijab, and don't kid yourself. You know? And I'm not going to call you out if you're walking by, hey, dress better or whatever. I'm not going to call you out, but this is my opportunity to call you out. And nobody else can call you out. You have to call yourself out. You have to stop letting shaitan trick you into thinking this is your way of looking beautiful. This is not. This is not. This is sad. This is what it's people who don't have anything higher to find meaning in. This is what they find meaning in. I'm not saying you shouldn't dress nicely. Girls have a natural tendency to want to dress nicely. Guys can look like homeless people and they're fine. Girls have a thing. They want to dress nicely. That's fine. You know, I wouldn't dress like this if my mom didn't tell me. I wouldn't do it. You know, you're gonna go like that? Like that? To a lecture? I was like, okay, mom. All right, fine. I'll dress like a human. But girls want to look pretty. That's fine. You know what? Cool. That's cool. No problem. Allah even says when He revealed clothing, He said warisha, and means to look well, look nice. He did. But not provocative, and you are smart enough to know the difference, and please don't pretend you don't. You know very well. And your mother calls you out on it too. Your mother calls you out and you say, Mom, come on, don't say that. You're embarrassing me. No, she's not embarrassing you. She's giving you a reality check. Because shaitan's messing with you and your mom's trying to help you out. Don't dress like that, don't dress like this. And then, there are those sad, disgusting situations. That needs to stop. So that was one trickery of shaitan that I wanted to highlight for the young ladies.
The purpose of the hijab is to divert the sight. The purpose of the hijab is to conceal. The purpose of the hijab is to protect. The purpose of the hijab is to set a standard and to send a message that this sister is a practicing Muslim woman and she's not the kind of cheap individual with low self-worth that sells themselves for a low price. That is what the hijab is for. And there are sisters telling our sisters in Islam to remove their hijab in a different way. Whether it is the way that they wear it, or the color, or the design, or the way to look at it. And none of them have any knowledge of Islam, or any knowledge of fiqh. The best of the pleasures of this dunya, the best thing that you can have in this dunya is a pious woman. And this asset of ours is being eroded and attacked by the non-Muslims and by some of the Muslims as well. And so it's an obligation upon all of us to come together to stop this, to come together to educate, to support, and to encourage and to teach our families and to prevent them from those things which would harm them, whether those things come from the school or whether they come from the TV or whether they come from the internet.
Very quickly, makeup, very, very important. Lipstick. Did you know all makeup was introduced to prostitutes so that they could attract men to mate with them? Did you know that? So lipsticks are there to show arousal. Astaghfirullah. And lips go naturally red when you're aroused. Blushing cheeks. Blusher is there when you get aroused, your cheeks blush. So not allowed to artificially blush your cheeks. Eyeshadows is drawing attention to your eyes to make men look at them and lock in them and fall in love with you. And also eyebrows, plucking is not allowed. Tattoos are not allowed either, you're harming your body. And here is one of plastic surgery. We're not allowed to do plastic surgery where you are changing your body different. But facials are allowed. Nail polish is not allowed. Keeping long nails, it's not good for you because you are actually, there's bacteria in there, and long nails are not allowed. They are haram because of no wudu. Perfume is not allowed. Think of flowers. Why are they perfumed? To attract the bees. So you are not allowed perfume to attract men. Only within your own houses. Okay, so perfume makes you, did you know men fall in love with you? Look at pheromones which are released. And also, did you know that the male stag has musk which it releases to attract the female stag? So perfume is not allowed. And again, think of flowers, they have perfume. Check your adornments. The only thing that is allowed is antimony, kajal, that is allowed. That is actually hadith to say that's allowed. And also henna is allowed as well. Henna is actually preferred to distinguish a woman's hand from a man's. Okay, and now we're going to quickly go on to behavior. No point in wearing a hijab if your behavior is chatting up and all the rest. So be very, very careful with the way you walk. Your voice should be lowered. There should be harshness in your voice when you talk to men. No quiet voices, no adhan in public, no Quran recitation in front of men, because all of that makes men fall in love with your high-pitched voices. Okay, and no dancing either, no singing. High-pitched singing voices attracts men and leads to fornication. Dancing, you're wobbling all your body parts around in front of men. And even your name, men should not know your name. They should call you sister or Mrs. or Baji or mother of so-and-so. Okay. Touching is the next one. Not allowed to shake hands of the opposite gender, but you do need to look at the context. Obviously, when I went to Buckingham Palace, I couldn't say to Prince Charles, could I, that I can't shake your hand. When you meet boys, it's important, it's in a business context, you keep the door open because shaitan will be the third person. Or meet them with the mehram. When it comes to marriage proposals, meet the opposite gender with your mehram, your brother or your dad in the room. In that way, the conversation can't go bad. Okay? So when a non-mehram man and a woman meet in privacy, the third one is always shaitan. Mehram is allowed. Your dad, your brother, your son, they are all mehrams. Again, did you know that in the olden days, there were rules in place that you had to ride in a buggy with a man who was actually your father or your brother, so it was actually there. Now, this is very, very important for nowadays culture. Social media, when you are in a conversation with a man, if you need to be, keep it businesslike, okay? Do not start getting into stuff that will attract them or make their desire more. These are some of the grooming that is out there, which can attract you. Men can put up tongues, or they can put up, did you know, even an apple could mean a bum and things like that. These are actually very important for parents to look at these in case your child is engaging in online media and engaging with pictures. The one with the hearts and the eyes means love as well. Because all of that makes your desires more. And astaghfirullah, there are teenagers out there masturbating by men stimulating their desires. And that is so, so wrong to do. We are not allowed to masturbate in Islam because it's artificial. A wet dream is different because that is natural. Some people think we're not having an affair because we're not sexually indulging in that behavior, but an emotional affair and a platonic friendship, both of these can actually result in you actually ending up in an affair, which is number one. Grooming is going on big time out there. Parents need to be very, very careful with what their children are doing online. Modern slavery is also happening as well. Please be very, very careful with what is going on out there. So dating is not allowed. You are not allowed to exchange presents either. This is the only date that you can get on Valentine's Day or in general. And even kind of things having nothing with you. Dancing releases endorphins through exercise and makes us happy. So weddings should be segregated, and try and go to events where men and women are segregated. No presents. Presents lead to you stimulating desires. So do not give an opposite gender any presents either. Okay, so praise releases hormone, dopamine. Try not to praise the opposite gender either. Society highlights your beauty, Islam highlights your honor and dignity. A woman's most prized possession isn't her hair or beauty, it is her modesty. So that leads me to the end, and now we are going to take questions, or I will let the sisters lead on what they would like to do next.
Subhanallah, sister, for this beautiful explanation of hijab. It has been an eye-awakening experience for me today. I have learned so much that I was unaware of.
That's good. Sorry to rush the end, but what we can do is to maybe have another session focusing more on the social media and the things. But basically, you know what we need to remember? This is very important. What we can show ourselves to outside, to the general public, that's how we need to show ourselves in social media, in the same way, dress the same way, the same etiquettes of walking, talking, and all the rest.
Indeed, we will, inshallah. Jazakumullah khairan, Lady Sidra. I am very grateful you took the time out of your busy schedule to address your experience and the importance of hijab to our small group. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He puts barakah in your work, guide you towards what is pleasing to Him, and facilitates all of your affairs. Ameen, Ya Rabbul Alameen. Now, as time does not permit us much, we will be going on to our question and answer session. So, I'll be explaining how it will work, inshallah. If any sisters who have any questions, if you can please use the icon in the if you select more, you'll find a hand icon. If you raise your hand, if you have a question, and then unmute yourself, and you can say your question to Lady Sidra, inshallah. And if there's any sister who feels shy, what you can do is you can write your questions in the chat, and I shall read them out, inshallah. And then Lady Sidra can answer them, if that is okay with you, sister.
Yes, that's fine, yes.
So sisters who wants to ask question, please use the hand in the icon and raise your hand, please. Okay. I have a question in the chat. The sister says, I would like to ask, are we allowed to wear sandals without heels, but which show the feet?
Yep. Okay, so first of all, some people have a high arched foot, and the doctors actually recommend that they wear a little bit of a heel. I'm actually one of those where I have a high arched foot, and when I wear flat shoes, it really hurts me. So a slight heel is absolutely fine. And it depends now which school of thought you follow, because some people say, because it says, you know, in the hadiths and in the Quran, that you should cover everything except for your face and hands. Some people who take that strictly then do not show their feet, so they may wear socks. Shafi, for example, the Shafi school of thought don't. The Hanafis, they do show their feet. So they don't regard feet as one of those things that we need to cover because they're not that attractive. So your question, sandals is fine if you're Hanafi, if that's the fiqh you follow, and also a little bit of a heel is fine, but not stilettos. Okay?
Jazakumullah khairan. I have Meem, if you like to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum. Sorry, so I have I went to the doctors about my hair fall a lot, and then she mentioned to me to do not wear a cap and try and just wear the scarf, because wearing the cap kind of suffocates like your hair and increases hair fall. So I have stopped wearing a cap, and loads of my baby hair do come out, but it's not intentional. With that kind of things will be like prohibited.
Okay, that's a very, very good question actually. If your hair is very readily coming out a lot, And a skull cap, obviously you have to tie it tight, and hair can fall off more. Then in that case, you can wear a hijab as long as your hair is covered. But you can also very loosely tie the skull cap. Or the other thing you can do is wear a little bandana at the front, like a little band just at the front, so your hair is covered, and then you can put the hijab on as usual. So there are ways around it, as long as your hair is not showing.
Okay, we have a sister asking, my question is, was it appropriate for the French government to forbid the wearing of head scarves in public schools?
Okay, what we need to remember is that with France, it's not an Islamic country. So what I think is very inappropriate personally is when a country like Turkey, which is a Muslim country, and the government should be Muslim, they ban the hijab. That is much worse because they should know better. With France, it's not an Islamic country, and even though it is in their religion, the religion has really watered down Christianity and Judaism. So the problem we have is we have to follow the law of the land. So if the law says we're not allowed to wear a niqab or we're not allowed to wear a hijab when we go to work, then unfortunately we have to follow that law, because one of the requirements in Islam is to follow the law of the land. But Allah knows our issues and problems there. Allah knows what we can't, you know, but we're not in control of that, you see. So there's nothing that we can do if the government says we're not allowed to wear something. But Allah knows, and Allah will forgive us, because He knows that we at least tried on our end, but we couldn't, you know, go against the government. We can't go against the government.
Jazakallah. Okay, we'll take from the chat then.
Yes.
We have a sister say, I would like to ask, as a husband wants me to dress modestly, but not abaya, what can I do on this, as I started to wear abaya last year?
Yes. Now, there's no hard and fast rules, black and white, that what you wear has to be in abaya. When I go to work, or when I meet the Queen, and when I do English events, you can wear a long maxi dress, can you not? So you can wear modestly dressed, but it doesn't have to be in an abaya. So maxi dress is absolutely fine. Obviously fully covered arms, high neckline, or wear a hijab to cover that. You can wear loose blouse and a loose skirt as well, with a blazer as well. That's absolutely fine. Islam is not that difficult and not that harsh, you know. But as long as it's not tight jeans and a crop top, then that's absolutely fine. You have to think outside the box. As long as it fits the requirements that I've told you, not see-through, thick enough material, not completely covered in jewels and things, loose fitting, long, covers all your private parts, all of that kind of stuff.
Jazakallah. I would like to state a verbal question myself.
Yes.
Are there Islamic modesty requirements for men?
There is, and that's a lecture, a completely different one, which is on my YouTube channel. Obviously, this was sisters. So yes, did you know all the requirements that we have, they have similar ones. So their aura is different. Where a woman, her whole aura is the whole of her body. With men, it's from the navel to the knee. So they need to wear loose clothes there, not see-through. They're not allowed to wear red or yellow because those colors, red stimulates desires in women, and yellow mimics the people like of polytheistic religions, Buddhists and Hindu priests and things like that. They're not allowed to wear gold. They're not allowed to wear silk. All of those kinds of things. They shouldn't really wear designer wear clothes because it doesn't show that they're humble. They shouldn't have long hair either to mimic a woman, and they should not also cross-dress, as in dress like ladies dress. They should have their own male attire. If you think of the Prophet, what did he wear? He wore long, loose, white thawb most of the time, including Jesus. So again, no tight clothes, no jeans which are hanging off their bottoms, that kind of stuff.
Jazakumullah khairan for that, sister. Now I'll take one from chat. It says, at what age would you recommend girls to start wearing the hijab?
Okay, that is from puberty, and puberty is the age when they start their monthly periods. That is the age from which they should start wearing a hijab, because it means that they are ready to reproduce. As soon as they start their periods, they're ready then to mate with a man and produce children. So then all the halal stuff about their dressing, etiquettes, everything needs to come into play. Get them married early as well. In Islam, you are encouraged to marry early, because if you think about it, why would Allah make you start your monthlies if you're not ready? Your body is ready then to have babies at that age. So get them married early to stop the haram.
Jazakumullah. I will take the chat one. I heard puberty starts when they have hair around their pubic regions.
Okay. Lots of tiny little things will start happening. So yes, they will get hair around their regions because of the increase in hormones. But the real time is when they start their cycles, because you can't get pregnant when you've got hair under your armpits and things, but you can get pregnant once your cycle starts. So that is the real time. You can start getting them ready because you know their monthly periods are going to start soon once their pubic hair starts. So you can start getting them ready, but when it's absolute time when they really should is once their monthlies start.
Okay. We have Mima again. If you'd like to unmute yourself.
Is little makeup such as mascara and foundation allowed?
Okay, if foundation is the same color as your skin, to a certain extent it's okay, okay? And facials and everything is fine. Mascara, again, I mentioned about the false eyelashes, didn't I? The false eyelashes are not allowed. You're lengthening hair. Again, it depends. If the mascara is lengthening your lashes, then you're drawing attention to your eye. So makeup, the only thing really, kajal is allowed, and henna is allowed. Facials are allowed as well. Or makeup, you can do what you like in front of your husband. Wear whatever makeup you want to in front of your husband. That's absolutely fine.
Okay, we have from chat. Assalamu alaikum. Are colorful and patterned clothes allowed?
Okay, again, if it's in front of your husband, absolutely fine. But overly patterned, I'm talking about the kinds of clothes you wear at weddings. This is why weddings should really be segregated. Obviously not, because you're mimicking a flower, a bright colored flower which attracts the bees. That's the way you need to think about it. And peacocks, they are hugely colored beautifully. Why? To attract the opposite gender so they can mate and have children. So we have to be careful. The plainer the better. Why are abayas always plain black? Think about that. Why are abayas always plain colors? Because they're Islamic, that's the way we should really dress.
Is waxing haram?
Waxing is not haram, okay, especially in your pubic regions. You are actually required to remove your pubic hair for hygiene reasons. That's absolutely fine. Waxing on your face is not allowed. You're not allowed to remove any facial hair. That includes plucking eyebrows as well. In the days of the Prophet, there was a woman and she completely shaved off her eyebrows and then penciled them in, and the Prophet cursed her. So we know that we are not allowed to do that. A stray hair here and there is okay, and the middle between your two eyebrows is fine. You're allowed to take that off. Apart from that, you're not really allowed to remove hair from your face. Body is okay if it's for your husbands, and especially pubic regions. The Prophet himself plucked his hair from his armpits and things for hygiene reasons.
What about threading the upper lip?
You know what? You can correct it. So there could be, for example, hormones too many hormones in your body, too much testosterone, which causes a hairy face. So you can go to the GP and you can get hormones to reduce your levels, to counteract the other male hormone, and that can then reduce the hair on your face. So if it's a medical reason which is causing distress to you, then you can try and correct it that way by getting rid of the hormonal imbalance. And in the meantime, while your hormonal imbalance is being corrected, I suppose you could wax it. It should get better with the hormones, really. But we're not allowed to touch hair on our face because of this strictness of the eyebrows and things, where the Prophet cursed what you can and can't do. But if it's a medical reason, then I don't really see the reason why you can't for the first time and then correct that medication so it doesn't happen again. Say you've got too much testosterone in your body and it's hormonal. While you're on your medication to correct that level, then you can do it once. And then once your levels are corrected, it won't grow again anyway, will it? Do you see? The whole reason why women have hair on their faces is always because of hormonal problems. Otherwise, women are not programmed to have hair on their faces. Do you understand? So I'm looking at it medically, really.
Someone asks, but these medication can be harmful.
Medication, not really, not if it's going to correct your body system. So hormones, if you have too much testosterone in your body and it causes a hairy face, you can then take a medical, medicines to counteract that high testosterone and make it level, because that's allowed. You can, medication is allowed in Islam, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we have, are we allowed to shake hands with opposite gender?
No, we're not, because I did put up a slide about that we are not allowed to do that, because touching the opposite gender increases oxytocin, and that's the love hormone. So we have to be careful. But if, for example, when you graduate, or say you meet a king, and it's a different kind of context, then you have to. But we should try and refrain from touching the opposite gender for that reason. The Prophet himself said that, it would be better if a man had a nail nailed through his hand than him touching a woman's hand. So we're not allowed to.
So we are short of time. I'm going to be taking the last question. Unfortunately, sorry, sisters. So the last question is from Nazma, Sister Nazma. Regarding niqab, there are two options amongst the scholars.
Yes.
Depends on how you interpret the verses. Some tafsirs say it means to cover faces, and some say hair and chest. Surely men will be attracted to a woman's face, not just her hair and chest.
Yes, yes. So it's very, very interesting, this question. Some sisters will say, and they're very right in saying, that a man can still be attracted to you because the most attractive part of you is your face, isn't it? So in that case, some women, they choose to completely cover their faces, their nose, mouths, everything, as added protection, because you can't go wrong with doing that. Also, the Prophet's wives were ordered to cover their faces as well. And who can be higher than the Prophet's wives, of whom we are trying to copy? Okay. Some people will argue, like I explained very clearly, that eyes is a very big attraction. You can fall in love by locking eyes. So the niqab, it doesn't cover your eyes, does it? So to me, that shows it's not obligatory. it is your choice at the end of the day. So if you wear a niqab, brilliant. You're one of the truly pious sisters who are trying to copy the Prophet's wives, and you've got added protection where all forms of attraction can be stopped by doing that. However, some people say it's not fard. It's not completely fard at all. But it depends, like you said, on how you take that ayah. But the neck and chest definitely 100% is in the Quran to cover your bosoms. So that you know you do have to do. Okay?
Jazakumullah khairan, sister. As we are running out of time. So is there any website or email, sister, you can mention, so people who have questions, they can post it to you and you're able to answer them, inshallah?
Yes, so my YouTube channel is Sidra Naeem, Sidra Qadeer Naeem, and this YouTube video will be posted on there in the next couple of days. You can write all your questions underneath in the comment section and I will answer them all that way. I also have got a Facebook page, which is also Sidra Qadeer Naeem, and you can post questions to me individually through Messenger through that as well. Try and subscribe to the channel. It's free. In that way, any new lectures that will get posted, you will be notified. Any other topics you want to do, you can talk to Roshanara, who got me for this lecture, and I can do another lecture in the future if you want one, just for example, on social media and hijab, which is a really big topic at the moment. I did cover a little bit today, but in the time allocated, I couldn't cover everything. But whatever topics you want in the future, if you can message Roshanara or myself through the YouTube channel, then I can mention it to her and we can do it that way.
Jazakumullah khairan, sister Sidra, for your time and for your effort. We really appreciate having you in this event today. We really enjoyed and learned so much from you as well. I wish you all the best.
Jazakallah khair. It was lovely being here. Really enjoyed it as well.
Jazakumullah khairan again. Sadly, we have now come to the end of the session. Alhamdulillah. All praise be to Allah. May peace and blessing be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I hope everyone has benefited from today's topic, inshallah. Well, I have certainly learned that hijab is not just a dress code. It signifies something deeper, and that is my dedication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only, and not to the whims of culture and to the fashion industry. I would like to thank my lovely sisters who have participated in today's session, and especially to our speaker. Jazakumullah khairan. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept your hard work, time and effort that you have put in. Ameen Ya Rabbul Alameen. And last of all, I would like to say a huge thanks to my sisters who have joined us today in this event, because without you, my sisters, we would not be able to do this. Jazakumullah khairan for your time, patience, and also for cooperating with us. Please do forgive me for any errors in my speech if I was too fast or rude. And last of all, I hope to see you, my beautiful sisters, joining us again next week, inshallah. Till then, stay safe and healthy. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I would like to call Sister Sumaya, who has arranged a little poem.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Wa alaikum
assalam.
Questions, questions, questions. Is it operation or oppression? Deviation or delusion? What Al-Quran mentions. For all mankind, Islam teaches us about the hijab, explains in the verses of surahs Nisa, Nur, and Ahzab. Indeed, definite purpose is to give Nur to individual communities, societies, to the whole nation. For the preparation for every civilization, questions, questions, questions. What preparation? Nur, the light, to make our life bright. Are we ready to compete with the whore? Questions, questions, questions.
Okay, Jazakumullah khairan for this beautiful poem. I would now like to call Farzana, who will be doing a nasheed for us, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
When I was born, the first words that I had heard were the words of Allah being whispered through my ear. And as I felt Allah's power in my soul, that day Islam took me in its fold. I am a Muslim, Islam my deen, Allah my Lord, His word Quran, Muhammad Prophet, peace be upon him. I am a Muslim for all of time. As I grew up, walking in this great big world, I gazed in awe at the wonders of Allah. And as I learned the cruel lessons of life, Islam shine through as my guiding light. I am a Muslim, Islam my deen, Allah my Lord, His word Quran, Muhammad Prophet, peace be upon him. I am a Muslim for all of time.
Oh, Jazakumullah khairan for this beautiful nasheed. We have another one more nasheed by Tahira.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Today I'm going to be singing I Think My Mom is Amazing. She wakes early in the morning with a smile, and she holds my head up high. Don't you ever let anybody put you down, 'cause you are my little angel. And she makes something warm for me to drink, 'cause it's cold out there, she thinks. Then she walks me to school, yes, I ain't no fool. I just think my mom is amazing. She makes me feel like I can do anything. And when she's with me, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. After school, she's waiting by the gate. I'm so happy that I just can't wait to get home to tell her how my day went. Eat the yummy food only my mom makes. Then I wind her up 'cause I don't want a bath. And we run around the house with a laugh. No matter what I say, she gets her way. I think my mom is amazing. She makes me feel like I can do anything. And when she's with me, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. In the evening, she tucks me into bed, and I wrap my arms around her head. Then she tells me a tale of a girl far away who one day became a princess. I'm so happy I don't want her to leave, so she lies in bed with me. As I close my eyes, how lucky am I to have a mom that's so amazing. She makes me feel like I can do anything. And when she's with me, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. Thank you.
Jazakumullah khairan for that beautiful nasheed. Hope everyone has enjoyed the nasheed by our young talented girls, alhamdulillah. Now, before I move on, I would like to address my sisters. In the chat, you will find a link to our Iqra group chat. Please do join us. And if you would like to participate, please do share what skills you have and how you can participate, inshallah. And also, please do feel free to ask any questions or any suggestions you would like to make, or any comments or criticisms you have. Jazakumullah khairan.